Hello and welcome to another episode of the Playing On Podcast. My name is Carl Markowski and thank you for joining me. We are brought to you by PunishersPB.com, and the very cool thing about PunishersPB.com is they sell all kinds of stuff. You can find anything you want, from markers to knee pads to maybe eventually pack bands. Who knows? But you can get all kinds of stuff over at PunishersPB.com. The thing that they have going on right now is a Spire program where you can trade in your old, abused, and used loader, send them a couple pictures, and that will credit to a brand new Spire 3. Maybe not Spire 3. I think it is Spire 3, actually. Yeah, Spire 3. and that whole program is going on right now as we speak. And if you type in the promo code TPOP, you will get free shipping on all your orders. So I think that's pretty cool. So thank you to Punishers PB. We are also brought to you by Charm City Paintball. You guys have heard him before, and hopefully you have seen his work on the foreheads of not only pros around the league, but there's a bunch of people down in Florida that use his stuff. I know Rocky just bought a bunch of his headbands and is rocking a bunch of them. I am rocking a Charm City headband on my pack as a pack band right now. He also makes the pack bands specifically for the pack bands. But I saw this one. It was an American flag. Everything was stars were stitched in, stripes were stitched in, and I thought it was very, very sweet. One day I'll throw up a more detailed picture of it or a video or something like that, and you guys can check it out. But it's awesome. He does great work. You can check him out on Instagram, Charm City Paintball, or on the Facebooks over at Charm City Paintball. Give him a shout. Let him know that Carl from the Playing On Podcast sent you over. So thank you, Mike, over at Charm City. We are also brought to you by Carbon Paintball, who makes the very, very sweet base layers that I use for my old knees and elbows and everything. So whenever I'm throwing those nasty joints into the dirt, they're being cupped and very subtly absorbing the ground. And I don't know why I said that, because I slam my body into the ground. but these make it a whole hell of a lot better. I'll tell you what, I was a little skeptical. To be honest, I was a little skeptical at first with the thinness of the foam, but it's so dense that it absorbs the impact so quickly, and so just the majority of the impact is all absorbed in that knee pad, and they don't slide around. Same thing with the elbow pads. They don't slide around. They don't do anything like that, and that's what I love about them. And they keep you cool, and they fit great. So I'm kind of a normal size guy, so I fit into a large. And everything, and you want it somewhat compressing. It's everything's like kind of a compression-y fit. So when you're looking to actually get into a pair of the tops or bottoms, make sure you keep that in mind. But Carbon also makes all kinds of gear, whether it be the pump-up packs that they have, the SC packs, or they also have a CC line that does not have the little in the back. But from packs to pants to gloves to the thermal pods now that change color when they start to get too hot, so you can change those bitches out. So you have fresh paint all the time in your pack. They are the ones that have those. So you can check them out, carbonpaintball.com, or give me a shout, Carl at carbonpaintball.com, and let's talk about it. Also, if you use the promo code capital TPOP, you will get 10%. Yeah, 10% off your entire order. So that's pretty cool. And if you guys have any inquiries about, sponsorship in any way, shoot me a message. We'll hook you up. We'll get you going. We'll get you in that orange sea for sure. So thank you to Carbon Paintball. And last but not least, we are brought to you by Planet Eclipse, the makers of the CS2, which is so hot right now. It's so hot right now, guys. And the Etha mechanical, which they're going all over the place into the fields and into the rental fields, and it's amazing. They're changing the game with that Etha. I'm telling you, man. If you have not shot one yet, please do. It's got a single trigger hinge and it's so smooth. It's ball and ball. I mean, I shoot those in the mechanical tournaments that I play in. It makes paintball fun. I mean, it's not that paintball is not fun with the electric markers, but holy shit, man. There's something so satisfying, and I was talking to Thomas Kim in this. There's something so satisfying about shooting somebody with a mechanical marker and just seeing it, just knowing that you pulled the trigger and that one just goes out and just goes, and just you can see it break. It's a great thing. It's great. But anyway, make sure you guys check out PlanetEclipse.com for all of their latest gear, news, and tech. And that's all the sponsorship talk that I have for you. So thank you guys for tuning in. This one is with Thomas Kim from Sacramento DMG, the new and upcoming team. These guys are young and hungry and are very, very determined to make a Sunday. Actually, not only to make a Sunday, but they want to win just as much as anybody out there. But these guys are definitely taking ground, and Thomas Kim is one of those reasons of why they're doing that. So I had a great conversation with him. I had a great time, and I really wish him the best. But without further ado, here is the podcast with Thomas Kim. Check it out. So where are you from?
I'm originally from Spokane, Washington. That's actually where I'm located right now. Born and raised here. So it's a pretty small town. It's actually funny because it's similar to Sacramento where I live now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the infrastructure of the city is pretty much the same, just on a larger scale. So Spokane has like a river running through downtown, and Sacramento is the exact same way. There's a river running through downtown, which kind of like it's famous for the bridge out there in Sacramento. So
yeah, kind of makes
pretty
you feel like
homey
home
vibe.
a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I used to live in Tacoma, Washington.
Oh, cool. Hell yeah.
Yeah, it was like it was like a year I was there, but I loved it. I thought it was awesome.
Yeah, that whole west side of Washington's gorgeous, especially on a sunny day.
Yeah, I mean, it gets a lot better after, like, people say it rains all the time. I think it does rain, like, here and there, but, dude, the scenery is to die for.
Yeah, 100%. It's kind of like it's almost tropical feeling is how I kind of describe it, just a little colder.
Yeah. I didn't know that they had, and I didn't know this when I lived there, but I think it's Washington has the United States' only natural, like, rainforest place. Is I think what I heard. Well, I used to live in Minnesota, and a friend of mine was from Washington, and he went out there and took pictures, and I was like, holy shit, how did I not know about this?
Yeah, it's actually it's funny you mention that because I think I heard that this year too, and I think that's kind of where that fact came into my head was pretty much like the Rockies over there are. It's insane. It has a lot of the same feel as when a lot of people go backpacking in Canada.
Yeah,
since it's so close, it's pretty much the same thing, and the scenery is epic to say the least.
Oh, yeah, it's crazy. That's one thing. One thing I wish I would have, took a little bit of time more in doing is I played a lot of paintball when I was younger, but I wish I would have actually taken some time to go actually see some things while I'm at all these different locations, and took out a few extra days while I wasn't working. I think the perfect time probably when I was playing for Avalanche and actually getting a paycheck just to play paintball, so that's all I had to do. Like, I'm just gonna take a bunch of vacations, but I was young and dumb.
Yeah, I mean. That's actually something I'm preaching to my guys right now. Tim Brusselback, he's one of the guys that has been traveling around Europe and stuff with I think Kiev United in semi-pro, and he cuts his trip so short. I'm like, you flew in Thursday and you leave like Monday morning. I'm like, man, you're in these other countries and you're not even spending like a day. You gotta like enjoy what you're doing right now. There's so much to see in this world.
Oh yeah, man. I've never been to Europe. I've always wanted to go.
What?
Never been, dude.
Damn, that's pretty wild.
Yeah, I've been to Australia though. Australia is pretty sweet.
Yeah, Australia is up on the list for me. I go there frequently. It's a gorgeous place with amazing people. What part do you go to? I'm guessing Sydney.
I went to Sydney one year, and then the following year I went to Perth.
Oh, okay, cool. That's actually where the team I play with is based out of.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. Perth Torque. And they're on the come up. They're a bunch of young guys, hungry, so it'll be a interesting time. They actually want me to do a clinic over there, I think this last one, so
Oh, sweet.
check it out.
Yeah, man, get it out while you... Well, how old are you?
I'm actually 23, so
Nice. Baby.
relatively young.
You got a bunch of time, man. Yeah, yeah, definitely. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
those are the years that you really take advantage of everything that you have on your plate, pretty much. And especially, being a professional paintball player, a new professional paintball player, which is awesome to see, dude. I love seeing new teams come up, and I love seeing. I think what I like seeing more is something like what DMG has. It's like it seems like you guys have a real core, and it looks like you guys have been. I don't know. I'm not gonna act like I know a lot about your guys' background, but just from my visual perspective, it seems that you guys have a lot of chemistry, and like you guys have played together for a while, and you have that flow to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. And that's kind of like, I think that's like one of the epitome of why we're successful. Definitely a big variable in why we are, but it's funny because we all actually live within an hour and a half of each other. So that's kind of like the root of why we have so much chemistry is we actually all see each other almost weekly, and we practice almost every weekend as well, Saturday, Sunday. Some people can make certain weekends, some people can't.
Yeah.
But it's funny because Joe Barrett, I'm sure you know him. He actually mentioned he's Joe Barrett's a goofball.
Dude, I don't know him. I don't know him on a real personal level, but like I could just tell. Like I know him by like first name basis, but I can just tell that he is probably a goofy drunk, and you get some fruit in him, and he gets crazy.
Yeah, he Joey Barefoot or Joe Brony, like what DMG likes to call him. But yeah, it's funny because he's got a lot of experience and everything, and he's a very intelligent, smart player. But ever since he joined our team, we've been nothing but smiles. Like sometimes he's the butt of the joke, sometimes he's the creator of the joke, But
yeah,
he's definitely a positive guy, and he's a good person to have around.
He reminds me a lot of this kid that I used to play with on Aftershock. It was Kirk Wozni. He was like when we needed to be serious, he was serious, and then when it came down to just goofing off, like he was always around. He was always making people laugh. He was always just he's good to have. Somebody like that is so crucial, I feel, to a team, because I feel like if you have a team full of guys that are nothing but serious, it doesn't make it fun. It doesn't make it like you want to go back to that every single time, because then it starts becoming just a lull. You're just getting this lull. But if you have like a good time every single time you go and play, it makes it 10 times better.
100%. You hit a nail on the head. That's exactly what he is. Like he sometimes, like I said, he'll be, most of the time he's the butt of the joke. So we make fun of him a lot, but he's got thick skin and he knows it's all out of love. So it's a good time.
So how did you guys pick him up? How did it go down?
So we've actually known him. So before I joined the semi-pro team and now pro team, the core of the roster knew him through paintball for a couple of years. So he's always been a really good friend of majority of the players, and over time he's kind of talked more of everyone on the roster. And we all talk pretty regularly, even when he was living in New York and playing with Extreme. And then he made the move to down south to play for Damage. I think he played a year on semi-pro or half a year, and then jumped up to their pro team. And pretty much he had some, I think some life stuff come on, and he was kind of looking for a change. He's always wanted to live out in the West Coast, and it happened to be perfect timing where we had our roster brought down to 7. Mark Spiegs had to take, I think, leave just for work and everything in life. He wasn't fully able to commit as much time as we were needing from him. So we got down from 8 to 7. So I think right then was pretty much the perfect time for Joe to find his new path for how he explains it. and so he just kind of gave us a call, and a couple phone calls with him, just talking about, we're not a camp that just flies players in or picks players up. Pretty much no matter the name, kind of thing. We DMG and Dave, Capital Edge Paintball Park, strives for the family feel and the full camp feel from Division 5 beginner to pro. Um, we preach a lot of promote from within, and bring everyone up and learn together and become a family, and
Grow
get
together.
everyone to the level. Exactly.
Yeah.
So we talked to him about that. Had a couple hour phone calls with him and explained to him, you're gonna have to, first steps, move here. That's 90% of the battle, because you got to live here and be able to play with us, because that's our formula. So once he did that, it was work your way up the system. He played on our semi-pro team for an event or two, and he was the best player out of our pool to pull from to get us to number 8, which is almost the perfect number, I think, for a roster.
I agree.
And then it kind of all just fell into place, and he's such a good friend that it all just made sense. The chemistry flows.
He seems like a really solid teammate, as far as not just being crucial on the field and coming through, but he seems like somebody who wouldn't be. He'd pick you up if you're down. You know what I mean?
100%. He's probably one of the most positive guys I know.
Yeah.
Easily.
That's a good flaw.
Oh yeah, especially with all the other characters on our team. It all makes sense.
So let's kind of go back into your beginning. When you were living in Washington, where did paintball come into your life?
So I was actually talking to my brother about this recently, because he actually reminded me that I actually thought that it was something that we kind of just fell into. My memory's not the greatest, but I started talking to him about it, and he was actually the reason why I got into paintball, which, like everyone else's story, is a birthday party, going out paintballing. I'm sure 99% of everyone has played paintball.
That's about what it is. That's what it's been.
Yeah. I'm sure you have like a running statistic going right now.
It's about 98%, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, originally he, I think it was his like 12th or 13th birthday, and I was probably 9-ish, 10-ish, which is a similar age for most people. I don't know if that's like when everyone is legally allowed to play or not, but
I think it's 10 years old.
Okay, that makes sense why I hear that number more often than not.
Yeah, which, man, to me is crazy though, because I didn't discover paintball until I was like 15, 16.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and really didn't start competing not even competing at all probably until I was like late 16, early 17.
Okay, so that's like prime, like beginning of athlete stages.
Yeah, which is super late compared to you being 10 years old and discovering it.
Yeah, it was kind of cool, because I don't think if I discovered it that young, I don't know if I'd be where I am now. And I didn't necessarily like play competitively at that age, but it was more like we'd go out for the birthday, once or twice a year. It started as like my brother's birthday, and then he was the older brother, so it was always older brother's team versus a couple other guys, and then younger brother.
Oh yeah.
So that was always a good time, them always beating me. I don't know if I shot anyone every time I went on his birthday.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, then I think that's what sparked it, was the brotherly rivalry love kind of thing, and always wanting to be better than your older brother. So pretty much, I think that's what sparked it. And then I kind of just rolled with it. I think over the years, I didn't start playing competitively until 2010, I believe. So I think I was roughly 15, if I remember right. So that's when I started actually playing speedball, which isn't too long ago.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think 2010, and then I took a couple years off. I started playing in the Northwest with this team called Code Blue, and we played a couple. What year did you actually live in Tacoma?
This was 2000. I want to say 5 or
Okay,
something.
okay. So
Yeah.
I was relatively young.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. I think I was like 12 or something like that. So, but there was this series, I think WCPS up in the Northwest, and me and Code Blue, we actually played that series for a year or two. I think 2011 or 2010 to 2012-ish. We did pretty well. We won, I think, 1 or 2 series, and then won a whole bunch of medals. And to me, that's like that team was the epitome of the chemistry and how I understood how paintball is supposed to be played, just
Hmm.
on a simpler scale. Because everyone's so it was the same kind of formula now where everyone lives together, but we were making moves and we didn't necessarily have to talk to each other at all. It was more like, hey, kill this, hey, we lost that guy, and then players would just make moves, and then some other player would see him make a move and counter with him, kind of thing, which
Yeah.
is really cool. And
Making
I'm
moves based off of what is being relayed on the field. Not necessarily, this guy talking to this guy, but let's say, you're the front player and you just hear kill this guy, automatically you know that you now have a free run to, D3, D4, whatever, and
Yeah,
the guy behind you follows suit.
exactly. And for a D4, D3 team, to be at that level and to understand that, like then was kind of cool, which I don't even think I fully understood then because I was so young and clueless. I was just following the heart, It was
Hmm.
just I love paintball. I want to do this, and I'm just chasing this. I want that gold medal kind of thing. But to look back now is really cool to understand that perspective and to still talk to all those guys is a cool thing to kind of translate to my viewpoint now,
Yeah,
which is
absolutely.
awesome.
What teams or player did you kind of follow when you were coming up in the sport?
Ooh, I want to say Iron Man. When I was first coming into the sport, I was a big fan of Die, and I think the DM9 was like my favorite gun out at the time.
Mm.
Um, and I'd have to say Ollie at the time. Um, but that's kind of like I feel like the most common answer too, because that was kind of that era too where Ollie was, he's the GOAT. So,
Yeah.
and he got the paycheck, which was kind of another thing that kind of took caught eye for me and even a lot of my friends that didn't play paintball when I would talk to them about it, like, oh man, this guy got X amount of dollars for this. That's crazy.
Hmm.
And then I don't think I watched too much paintball in the beginning, but him and I remember right when I started playing more competitively, I was watching Heat, and Nick Slowiak was one of the guys I kind of liked the way he played and how clutch he was, which was pretty cool.
Hmm.
And I actually hit him up one time and did a senior paper. I can't remember what I wrote about, but it was something about paintball, and I had to like pick a mentor, so I kind of emailed him about it and just had a couple questions and stuff.
Just wrote about how hairy he is.
That's funny. I'm like the same boat. I got the white side of my family. I got hair, chest, back, everywhere. So very very uncommon for an Asian, but
But I
working
want
on that beard. But
to getting there. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
it's funny too because that's one thing that I first noticed when was hair. It's weird kind of describing it, but that's the first thing I noticed when I watched you guys play was how many guys had the same color and style of hair. I think it's like 3 of you guys at least have straight shoulder length black hair, like super straight.
Oh
And
yeah.
I think it wasn't last event because I wasn't at that event, but maybe where was it? But Shane Howe was wearing a wig, like he had a bunch of
Oh,
guys like
Vegas.
Vegas, yeah. It was pretty good.
Oh man, that was a fun kind of like keeping the what are the nerves cool
Right.
idea that Shane brought out. They ordered some wigs, and it was funny because I don't even think half of us knew they were doing it, but um, it's kind of like a style we preach. At least the three of us are, if we look as close as we can to each other, and we all have relatively the same hair, same length, and everything. Sometimes players don't know who's who, which is a
Hmm.
cool thing. But yeah, I don't know. It's some kind of little trend that started in the Northwest back where we had a old teammate on the team, and it kind of just stuck. And now now I keep asking people like, man, this heat's like 110 out. I just want to cut my hair. Like, no, you can't do it. You can't do it. It's a signature. I was like, but soon I'm gonna cut it.
Yeah. It's funny that you mentioned, because I was thinking about that today. It's funny that you mentioned, having multiple guys kind of look the same, and even not necessarily even talking about the hair, but just goggle color, headgear, and maybe not so much style, but just those simple things to where if you're playing against somebody, or if you look down, down the other side of the field, you have a hard time really trying to figure out who you're playing against. And what's funny is, like, back in the mid 2000s, maybe even mid to late 2000s, like, there were so many people out there that were trying to be different, that were trying to have their own set style, and not necessarily bright colors, but this guy wore, a bandana with 2 headbands. This guy wore a beanie, but his goggles were super bright or something like that. But now, even Bruno talks about it. He goes, everybody needs to wear the same damn thing because they're not going to know who they're playing against. I'm like, honestly, I kind of like having them know, like, I'm going to be going this. He goes, what? They're going to shoot at you. I was like, that's fine. Like, that's the whole point. Like, that's what makes it fun. But I look at the game differently anyway, so it's like a lot of what people are doing now, it's, I don't know, man. At times I feel like a lot of the players who came up kind of in your era and everything don't really know what it was like in the early 2000s with the 7-man and the uncapped semi-auto, and how this kind of transitioned into what we are. Like, I understand their whole idea of wanting to do that, and I know I'm probably beating a dead horse whenever I bring this shit up on the podcast, but it's like, it's being in control of your marker and having, like, there's something so different about when you shoot somebody or you take a couple snapshots and it's not the gun doing it. It's you. You know what I mean? It's playing a mechanical tournament and shooting somebody. It's like, I feel like you get more gratification out of it than you do, having the gun just shoot a rope and then you eventually shoot the guy's pack and you're like, oh yeah, all right, well that worked. And then you're shooting through your bunker as you change hands and everything. And it's just, I don't know, it's kind of silly.
Gotcha.
What's your opinion on that? I mean, have you played any other kind of format that you prefer rather than what you're playing now, or?
I wouldn't say prefer. I think the NXL is doing. I like the current format right now. Just the whole setup with the BPS and everything, and how the field's set up. But I was able to play Tim Montressor's 10-man open down in Los Angeles, and we actually won that one. That was the first time I played a tournament with pretty much an auto caca, but it was like mechanical only. And so I fully agree, because shooting someone with an auto caca in the woods, or even not even the woods, we played on some like terrain kind of field. It's amazing. It's a whole different feeling.
It is, isn't it? Shooting
an Electro where you're just sitting there controlling a lane and you're playing that chest in your head. But shooting with the mechanicals, like, man, I sniped that guy. Like, I really had a good shot, and I really timed it up and lined it up. But so it'd be cool to see if they could, like the UWL. Like, I don't know too much about that. I was actually talking to my buddy London down in Florida, and he was asking if I ever played any of those. I was like, nah, but I really want to. So that's an area kind of like I want to see what it's about. You know what I mean? It looks like a lot of fun. So
it's so much fun. It really takes me back to, like, playing 7-man and really being kind of in control. And if somebody sucks at shooting left-handed, like, you can tell, and you can really, like, take advantage of it, instead of somebody, like, shooting one finger, shooting down a lane left-handed, but still being able to control. And it's like, it puts everybody on the same level, when I feel like gun control and gunfighting abilities, not just with, like, snap shooting, but actually, like, having to pull the trigger physically. I think that comes down to a player's physical attributes. If you can't do it right, they should be, they shouldn't be reprimanded, or they shouldn't be, like, put on a pedestal with everybody else on the same lane. But they were having issues of everybody cheating back then, so, like, I can understand that. But I feel like the technology is so much better to catch that and make the penalty, something fucking, like, they're suspended two tournaments. There's only 5, so if you suspend them 2 tournaments, then that'll piss them off.
100%. Yeah. So I see you posting about the GMEC. So would that be where you would want to go? Is kind of like everyone uses like a GMEC or something similar,
See,
or
it's so weird because I don't see it happening, and as much as I think there's always going to be like that novelty kind of like league where a lot of the older guys can play and do this whole thing. And I always think there's going to be a bigger pro league with kind of its own plan and its own format and everything. I don't know if it would ever get to that. I mean, I'd like to see it. I would like to see even shooting electronic markers, perfectly fine. But I think they should cap it and take it back to semi, so the player actually has to learn how to shoot left-handed and hold a lane or snap shoot or something like that, rather than the ramping. And I think they should limit the paint. I really, really think they should. And I don't think they should release the layouts until Thursday midday or Thursday night. And I think that'll bring out a lot more creativity in the players. I think there's a lot of creative players out there, but it's something there's something in seeing a move happen for the first time, or I mean, I guarantee any paintball player, and yourself included, will be able to relate to this, is pulling off a move that you just see that you haven't practiced 10, 20 times, and just how smooth and fluid it felt, and like how you kind of felt it in your gut of like, you need to get up and go kind of a thing. And it's just, there's something about it, and there's something seeing it. I think that's what made Oliver one of the best in his era. And I have another thing about that too. Like, I was listening to like a whole LeBron James thing and a Michael Jordan thing and this and that. I was like, well, this guy's the best of all time, and then this guy's the best of all time. I was like, how I think of it is that this guy was the best of his era.
100%.
This guy's going to be the best of his era. Oliver was the best of his era, but now kids coming up and watching the game, they're not going to know who Oliver is. I mean, they might hear his name, but now it's impact guys. It's going to be guys like yourself who are coming up who are young, that younger players can relate to, and you guys are the influencers now, on the paintball field, and that's why I think it's so crucial for teams like DMG and New York Extreme and Elevation and all those guys to really pick up the ball and do something with it around your guys' area,
Yeah, I fully agree. And it's an interesting fact is like you're talking about the eras, and that's exactly what it is. There's kind of going to be like this changing of a torch. I've talked to like a lot of the old pros about it and stuff. And that's the cool thing is I feel like everyone around that new generation, I guess, that new era, whether they're 21, 18, or 30, but there's still that new generation coming in, be the new pros. I feel like everyone's got their head on right, where everyone wants to see paintball grow, and they understand that it needs to be a full community base, not necessarily just all-star this, all-star that kind of thing. Pay me my money. It's more, how do we make our area grow so then we can get better as a team, because then we have better players to play against around to prepare us for all these events and whatnot, which is a cool thing. But it is cool to see the transition phase, and to see, because when I was playing in the semi-pro, I scouted like every match to be prepared. So it's really cool to see all the talent, and to see like even Division II guys and semi-pro guys, what the possibilities in the next 2 or 5 or 7 years will be. And to me, in my perspective, it looks relatively promising. I feel like just it's kind of like since paintball is such a young sport, that it could just be a whole I wouldn't say like flipping of a script, but it could be like the revision of a book, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I feel like something needs to happen. I feel like something needs to happen, because Matty Marshall told me. I remember when I first got on Excessive, he told me, he says I'm jealous in ways of you, because you're getting in the time of the sport when they're going to start paying their players, which eventually I did. It wasn't until I got on Avalanche in 2007 when I got paid, and that was the only time I did. But at the same time, like I thought it was going to be way different, and now I have to say to guys like yourself is, I hope that when somebody gets to the level that you're at now, and maybe you in the next couple of years, I hope that with how much time, effort, blood, sweat, and tears that you put into the team and to this sport, that you can be, you can be paid for it. Because this takes up so much time, and what I don't want to happen, and what I feel like has kind of happened, is everybody's happy, and don't take this the wrong way, but I mean, it's kind of a general thing, but I feel like when guys get to this level, they're kind of happy to be there. Not saying like they're so naive that they're happy to be there, because I know you guys, I mean, everybody wants to win. I understand that. But I mean, I think there comes a point where, you put all this time and effort in, there has to be some kind of return. And I mean, with all the tournaments that you play and how much practice and everything, I don't know if it's going to be like third-party sponsors coming in to be able to actually make a life change once you make pro, because I feel like with paintball, with paintball, there's no, you're paying all this money and you do all this shit in semi-pro, just like in any other sport that you want to do, because you're working up to your goal, right? You're working up to your goal of doing something professionally. And if you do that at the pro level, you're always not reimbursed, but what's the word? Compensated, yeah, for that time and effort, because you've done the work. You put in, I mean, there's a lot of pro teams out there and players, well, I mean 20, but I mean that is a very select few of how many paintball players that are playing competitively. And just to go to all these events like everybody else is, and then if you win, you get a very minuscule amount of money, I feel, and if you lose, you're just kind of back to the drawing board. But that's how it's always been. That's how it's always been when I started playing. It's always back to the drawing board, and you work your way up. But there's got to be a time when we can get, and that's what I'm really pushing for, is trying to sell the idea of the sport to be able to support guys like yourself when you've reached the top and there's something finally there, and I really, really hope for it. And I'm kind of like rambling on this, but it means, paintball means a lot to me. I've grown up dude, and it does, and and I'm not going to be around for very much longer, and more than anything is I want to see guys who have been in my position before, where I can tell you, like, yeah, I know what it's like, man. I know what it's like to be young and hungry, and you want to win. But there also comes a point where it's like, it has to be worth it, because there comes a point in time when you kind of look back and something happens in your real life or whatever, and you go, fuck, is this really what I want to do? I mean, am I going to miss, do I want to miss more birthdays and family gatherings and this and that, and put into this sport where I know I love it, I want to do it, I want to continue doing it, but is it worth it? Am I going to go back? And I'm not saying getting paid millions of dollars, I mean, getting paid millions of dollars would be worth it, but but I would like to see guys make a living off of this, and not just one or two teams because they have multi-million-dollar owners, because the league is sponsored and the players are taken care of, and that's more of what I want to see. Is I want to see the paintball grow. Yeah, I want to see the league grow, but more than less, I want to see the professional players who break their bones literally and tear open their skin, from the field, because these teams aren't giving us health insurance. They're not providing any. Well, at least I don't think so. But but we put our lives on the line every day because of the sport we love, and I really hope someday that I can see you guys getting paid for this thing. Sorry for the rant. Paintball means a lot, man. It does. I might be old.
100% agree. But... I 100% agree, because I've actually, how this year's been going for me, is that same perspective, or not necessarily perspective, but the same thought is kind of what I'm dealing with this year. Was I'm playing so many events and doing, spreading myself really thin, doing clinics and all these stuff, which I love, and I love to go to sport, love meeting new people and everything. But I can't hold down a job really, so it's I'm sacrificing what a lot of people say are like your golden years to build a foundation for what you want to do and how you want to make money in the future, which is fully what I'm fully accepting of, and is exactly what I want to do, is play paintball forever until I can't walk anymore, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I fully agree with you where I think everyone should have at least a base minimum, kind of like how other leagues have minimum contracts or whatever, where it's enough to pay the bills, it's enough to get by, but it's enough to not just give money back to previous years you've invested, but to allow yourself to invest further years into the sport to help it grow, which is just the exponential growth formula pretty much. That's what I've always told is like some of my friends and other previous people I've talked to before is if by the odd chance that I could offer or get an offer or anything like that, or somehow get compensated with guns or whatever it is, money wise, to me, I've always been like anytime I get that money is I'd want to just reinvest. I'd want to, you know, hire more speed trainers, hire a nutritionist, hire, I don't know, a voice coach, stuff like that, just to make myself better and be better at paintball, which isn't necessarily, you know, building in the future for myself outside of paintball and like normal life. But I fully agree to where I don't know how it's gonna work. I don't know how people are gonna.
Yeah, I don't know the logistics.
Yeah,
but
someone needs to figure it out.
yeah, it does. Well, and other sports have done it. I mean, look at the union. Look at any union. It's like at some point in time, the workers, and actually Oliver wrote, I think, from Inside the Net just reposted something about the article that he wrote, and in there he actually talked about this very subject, and he was saying that, you know, it's until the guys that this sport really means something to, meaning, you know, all the pros, until they stand up and do something and say something, it's gonna be the same. Nothing's gonna change, and I thought the same thing. I was like, unions. I mean, when the workers' union started, it was, you know, workers had enough. You know, they wanted a minimum wage. They were tired of the unsafe working conditions. They were tired of this and tired of that, and eventually they said, "No, fuck you. We're not going to do it." And I think that's where the players need to be. I'm not saying that the league is shit, and I'm not bad talking the league. There's good stuff that they do, and there's shit stuff that they do. Just, I'm sure, like it is in the NFL, NBA, NHL, whatever you want to talk about. But there has to be a point in time when the players stand up and say, players and team owners, and say, no, we're not doing that. I can't imagine the amount of money that Rennick and other team owners have, I don't want to say wasted, but have invested into this sport and haven't had a return because the players themselves either got burnt out and had to retire and did this and that, or just had plain out bad luck. And I mean, it's got to be devastating to have a 3, 4, 5 year run, kind of a up and down seasons where you don't see a return. And I don't know if anybody ever sees a return in the pro levels.
Yeah, I mean, maybe the top 3%, maybe, or top 5%. But even then, it's is it a return for, you know, just the time invested to, you know, in the further years, or is it a return for previously invested time, which is a whole different concept, I guess. But it's interesting because, you know, does the money come from sponsors, or is it going to come from the league, which is a whole different thing? Because I feel like all the other sports are based kind of around brand recognition kind of thing. So like what Dynasty and Infamous are doing right now, at least making money off of their brand. Like Dynasty makes a ton of money off of the name Dynasty,
right?
Stuff like that, to where if maybe if we could get to that kind of a formula, that could be like the building blocks to, you know, build the brands, and then, you know, outside sponsors come in. I'm not even sure though, but it would be, I think that's like the next step. I think that's the next step for paintball to be in that next public eye, to where Joe Schmo on the street doesn't go, "Oh, I didn't know you could do that professionally. Are you in the woods?" You know, the first 2 questions you always get when you say, "I am a professional paintballer." Yeah. But, you know, who knows? And it would be interesting to see if like a union kind of thing happened. But I always thought if contracts were forced to be publicly known, that could change the game on paid players. Because then it's like, oh, that player gets paid this. Well, oh, we could go get that guy for, you know, 20 grand less or 10 grand less or whatever. And then that starts putting a market value on people, and then sponsors kind of want to give a little more money or whatnot. You know, maybe people go find outside money. I'm not really sure.
Right. Yeah, I don't know, even know if it's going to come from inside sponsorships. I mean,
I don't think so.
I don't. Yeah. Well, and how I see it is like each bunker on the field is a NASCAR.
Yep.
You know what I mean? I mean, the
100%.
player obviously has a focal point, but if we can get this down, and Go Sports can get it down to where, I mean, there's always a bunker on in frame. Always. And if we can get a big Nike logo or Adidas logo or Under Armour or this and that, and let's say the league itself gets $1 million just to, throw some logos on bunkers from one sponsor, from one outside sponsor. Now imagine having 5 or 10 outside sponsors, and you have let's say the 50 bunkers or the back center bunkers have the biggest logos and fewer of them, and then they get more or whatever as you get foot. But I mean, imagine 10 sponsors with $10 million. That's a lot of money.
Change the game.
That would change the game, and I feel like a lot of people would now. They could put a lot more time into it. I feel like the gap between the bottom teams and the top teams would now start shrinking down, and because everybody's being able to take. You know what? Since I get 40 or 50,000 a year for playing paintball, and I don't have to go to work, I'm going to be able to work out Monday through Friday. I'm going to Monday, Tuesday, even let's say Tuesday, Thursday, I drill at the field, and then Saturday, Sunday, the teams get together and we practice. Now imagine you did that all the time. I mean, it would be crazy if all the teams were able to do that, and then all the teams in the Midwest or the East Coast, they have great indoors to play at that were full size. They could play year round, just like the teams on the West Coast or in the South. And I'm not trying to make excuses. I'm really not, because I know I play for Aftershock and we're on the low end of the totem pole, but I know we have a lot of talent, and I've been now on both sides. I've been at the top and I've been at the bottom, and I've been somewhere fucking in between. But I know that can shrink if we were able to enable those players to be able to do that.
100%. I think it would also grow, the bottom 90% too, because then it'd be kids would go, oh, I could actually make this a job. Mom and Dad, look at this. These players are, it's a career kind of thing. So then, in turn, the industry would start getting more money, which would be cool too. So it could go full circle like that, which would be awesome. Yeah,
now it's just the bigger companies. That's the thing, is when you grow paintball, the bigger companies are getting bigger. It's not necessarily the NXL is getting bigger. And I think the last thing we should do is point out the last 10 teams in the NXL and cut them out and say everybody, you guys suck, and you're not allowed to play pro, so because you suck, and go that way. It's like, well, what the fuck? None of us get paid. We don't have any team owners that have multi-million dollars. We're trying to make work with what we have. And it's not dedication. It's not that, we play when we can, and we get out there when we can. It's definitely not as much as everybody else, but our dedication and heart is there for sure. We've just kind of had the shit end of things. But if we had that same opportunity and that same chance, it would be totally different. And I just don't want them to be. I've just heard rumors, and I just don't want the bottom teams to have their feet swept out from underneath them and say, because you are in the bottom 10, everybody sucks and you're all not playing pro anymore. You're all cut. I just don't think that's the answer.
Yeah, no, that sounds like it would just kind of kill paintball, definitely in those areas. So, which sounds like a lot of negative, but I'm not even sure.
I don't even know what's going to happen, next year or in the next 5 years. It's really tough to see. I mean, I'd like to see Go Sports spread the word a lot more rather than to the people who already know about the sport. I'd really like to try and see them do more advertising on Facebook and more advertising, free Facebook streams or Instagram streams or whatever it is, or find a free streaming platform for a couple days. And I'd like to see the league advertise more at all the venues. I'd like to see that money spent in a little bit better fashion, I guess. I mean, I don't know what Go Sports is spending money on. I understand that streaming is a very expensive thing, especially paintball, because it's so fucking messy. But But I know there's ways. I know there's other platforms and other ways to go about it.
Yeah, maybe it's like a 5 or 10 year transition phase, whether they're looking at that or not. Just because I know a lot of old pros that don't necessarily believe in practicing even anymore. So maybe it's kind of that transition from that new generation, like we were talking about earlier, becoming those players that push for kind of like what we were talking about earlier with the union and everything, to where it's like, no, we need this, this, and this, so we can actually be competitive, exactly like you were saying, which would be an interesting fact.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the older players too. I mean, it depends on how old you're going. I'm only 32, so I don't feel like I'm that old. But
Nah, it's not that old.
but I mean, I think
Tom Brady's 40, so
but I know I'm not gonna be playing for very much longer. But I think a lot of the guys too, they're like what's left in it for me? You know, besides my own pride of wanting to win and help a team win. Like, I obviously want to do that, but like, do I want to risk? Do I want to risk going out there and breaking an ankle or something, and now I can't go to work and, you know, pay my bills and all that shit? So it's like a lot of different things start coming into play. And you'll figure that out once you get older. And you start feeling you don't recover as fast. But I mean, I'm very true at believing in you're as old as you feel. And
100%. We got Shane Howe on our team, so we're
he's like
we're
57
right in that
or something like that.
I think it's like 112 right now, but
At
you know,
least.
he's still going down and bunkering fools, and
he looks like a child.
Look bad.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I swear he's got the Benjamin Button thing going on.
Dude, that would be. Yeah, I could believe that. I could believe that.
Oh yeah.
So what do you do now for a living? I mean, are you doing? I mean, you got to be doing something for money.
It's kind of cool. I'd consider myself semi-paid to play paintball in a way, just because going to all these events, I get pretty much, you know, X deal for things covered and whatnot. And I've kind of just saved up enough money to where I'm just kind of making it float. But I used to install appliances, like high-end appliances, and I got paid really well through that. My boss was actually used to be on our semi-pro team, so he was always cool with time off.
Oh, nice.
And then
That
I've
always
actually
works.
been doing, yeah, it works out perfect.
Yeah.
So it's like, hey, I got a tournament here, and then next week I got to take this off and everything like that. But with, like I was saying earlier, with traveling so much and doing all that, I can't hold a full-time job, so I kind of just do part-time labor things. And I've actually done stained glass for the last 14 years of my life now, so that's one of the things I fall back on. Which is kind of cool because it's like, you know, I've already had a career kind of in a way, you know, up until my age right now, 23, which is relatively young. But I've had that full experience of, you know, starting something that, you know, my mom kind of taught me and I learned over time, and then hating it and then realizing I'm good at it and I can make money from it. And so now it's like, you know, a full circle, this whole process where, you know, there's like a million stained glass artists maybe in the world or something like that. So it's kind of one of those traits to where every city I go to that I've moved to, I kind of just go there, go into the shop and say, hey, this is my experience, and they hire me on the spot. So I pretty much just do stained glass, and that's actually why I'm here up in the Northwest, is because my mom has some big church projects. So I kind of just pick up these jobs here and there and then sell some guns.
That always helps too.
Oh yeah.
So how does that whole? I mean, I've never seen how stained glass was made or anything. I mean, what is it? Just different colored glass that's like lead spaced out together?
Yeah, pretty much. So it's like imagine like an H turned on its side, and then you pretty much build it like Lego. So the glass goes inside of the channel, and then the H connects the glass together. And then you pretty much just use this putty, which is like a mud cement kind of thing, and fill it in and clean it up. But you know, that's like the simple way to put it. But yeah, it's a lot of people think it's kind of like painted glass, which is a whole different thing. Painted glass is like a couple $1,000s a square foot, where stained glass is, you know, a couple $100s a square foot, depending on who's building it and everything like that. Yeah. But it's really cool because, you know, it's a lot of hands-on. So that's kind of how I like being and learning and everything, is more hands-on, building, being crafty kind of thing like that.
Yeah. So so when you build it, you're obviously probably doing it flat, right? On a table and building it that way. how do you transfer that? Like, is it that
Oh yeah.
structurally sound to where you can move it, or?
So that's where the experience comes in for over the years. You figure out how to properly design things and how the physics of glass works with obviously gravity and everything, but with stress points. So then you have to someone came in with like a basic picture they wanted of like a house and like a city view. You would have to redesign the whole picture into corrective lines that don't create any kind of fracture point in any of the glass when you do move it. And that's where when you're building it, you use different sizes of lead, and sometimes you can use like zinc, some other metals to reinforce the structure. But as you don't have to necessarily worry about structure until you get over like 3 foot by 3 foot. After there, it starts getting really, really heavy. And that's where you got to start reinforcing it with certain types of rebar if you're trying to go that route, or kind of double strengthen the lead. There's some stuff you can put inside of the channels that's like a copper piping kind of thing, which will help structure the window. And then you got to know how to manhandle it and flip it properly with some boards and stuff to get it back upright. And then you got to like finesse hold it so it doesn't crack. It's pretty crazy.
That is not.
It's stressful.
I bet.
Oh yeah.
I've never made stained glass, but I've always wanted to blow glass.
Yeah. That's something I want to do too.
Oh my god, there was probably about like 5-6 years ago, there was an opportunity for me to go do some blown glass classes at the art museum here, and
Gotcha.
I literally, as soon as I called, they had just filled the class. And I was like, oh, this is something that I've like always wanted to do. And then I just never had the time to do it again. But we have this huge glass pavilion kind of art thing outside of the art museum. And we're also known as the Glass City, which I don't know if you ever heard of Libby Glass.
Libby, I don't think so.
But I don't think anybody has. I don't know why we call ourselves the Glass City. But we make a bunch of like wine glasses and shit here in Toledo. But
Gotcha.
But there's a bunch of artists that donated some pieces to this, and it's amazing. I could sit there and just watch, like, just somebody just blow glass and how they stretch it, and then seeing the end piece, I'm like, how the fuck did you do that? Like, how?
Yeah. And the vision to like, because when it's hot, it's a completely different look. It's molten, it's red, and to actually know what you're doing and all the techniques how to add the texture and the colors exactly where you want it. It's something
all timing.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Like the skill needed for that, it's a dying trait. But
I think that'd be cool to have a job where you just make shit. Like you make shit. I'm sure it's stressful as hell too, but it's like you just make something, you can be proud of it, and somebody else can buy it and appreciate it. I think that would be. I think it's kind of like doing this podcast. It's cool to be able to sit down for an hour or two and chat with somebody about your views, about their life, about everything, and then have somebody else listen to it and then message me and be like, hey man, I really enjoy the podcast. I really think you guys have some good insight. And I think this is where the conversation starts right now on helping grow the league or the sport or the rights of players is places like this.
Yeah, and I fully agree, which it's kind of like a dying trait, which is like all the hands-on craft and everything like that, carpentry, metalwork and all that stuff. It's kind of going away, but it's the same thing like where you're talking about the podcast and everything. It's all those things like spark creativity, which is really cool, and it sparks like progression, which is also really cool. Yeah. So I fully agree with you there.
Yeah, it's weird though. I mean, the times are definitely crazy because it's like you were saying, like with the wood crafting and all this other shit that people aren't really doing too much anymore. I mean, I'm sure it's happening, but not on a scale.
Less and less.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So much more. The thing is like with this laptop that I'm looking at, and I'm looking at a picture of you through because I'm talking through this little microphone, and there's so much you can do on this thing where I might be doing this podcast, but somebody else is using this to do graphic design, and then somebody else is using it for architecture, and then somebody else is just in this one thing. So you have so many people now doing so many different things through this one thing. And
yeah, that's actually a good point.
Yeah, and it doesn't seem as unique and as time consuming I guess, as someone would think, like if you're knitting a quilt or something.
Yeah, yeah.
But because it's all on this one machine. But I mean, I can't imagine. Like I'm trying to build a website right now. Like I'm 3/4 of the way, maybe not even 3/4, but I'm trying to build a website right now, and it's through Squarespace, and I'm like stressing out because they're like, oh, it's so easy. Like yeah, it's easy, but because you have it so easy and there's so many options, I'm pulling my hair out.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
there's so many different things you can do, but I have like 2 pages done, and I have probably like 5 that I want to get. So, and I'm trying to get it done before Chicago, but we'll see.
Nice, nice. Yeah, I mean that's a really good point because the computer's so versatile. So it's like it's less connective. I feel like with hands-on, but it's almost more hands-on
Yeah,
in a way.
yeah. It's just it's fucking time consuming, man. It is, and even these, like I enjoy them thoroughly, but I don't think people realize like how much time that we put into this. And being able to put it out, and it's just like with Ronnie doing his D's on docs and everything, and I plan on starting a vlog hopefully here soon, and but fuck, I'm thinking about trying to, I don't know if I want to add more sponsors or how I want to go about it because I want to continue doing it, but I just have to figure out some kind of way to like help kind of balance everything out.
Yeah, equate you for your time.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that like, oh, I should be getting paid for this, but it's just like anything, man. It's like
I mean, if other people are right, why shouldn't you, kind of thing.
Well, if you feel like you do something well and other people appreciate it, and you even have people saying, "Hey, man, is there any way that I can donate to help out? Continue your podcast or continue you doing this or doing that." It's like, of course, I would want to do that because that's working towards your goal of eventually getting paid for something you enjoy doing. It's just like the guys that are getting paid to play pro. I mean, you don't want to hate on them because they're getting paid, but it's what I've always wanted to do, and now you get to do it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Dude, so I want to talk about DMG a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Was Dave the whole kind of creator of that? Not necessarily the team, or maybe from the team. I mean, is he the one who kind of wrangled all the guys that you have on the team together, and did he build that up, or how did that happen?
So I actually joined probably about like halfway between now and the start of DMG. So my memory on the beginning is all from hearing stories from other people. Mm-hmm. But from what I was told, DMG was created through a beginner Division 5 team based out of Capital Edge Paintball Park. Mm-hmm. However, Dave, I think, was currently playing for Damage at the time. And I don't know how the merger happened, but somehow they wanted to be a competitive team. So they hit up Dave and tried to figure out sponsorships and whatnot. So then that came over with him. And then I think Dave had the opportunity to get a higher caliber team in, semi-pro or whatnot. So then I think he was able to get some of the Northwest guys and then held tryouts and everything. So I think he was like the originator of the team, like the rosters and the core. But I think the name, if I remember right, started with a local group. Was actually when my boss told me that's my old boss. He was part of that crew that started the name DMG, from what I was told. And then over time, players have slowly filtered in and out. And I think what Dave created with the mentality behind DMG in the camp, it kind of just drew players to the area that were relatively close or wanted to move there. And I think that's kind of how it all started, because actually a lot of the Uprising guys used to play on Sac DMG when the PSP was around.
Oh, really?
When they were challengers. So that's where Tim Brusselback, our Snake player, he moved from Washington, just like I did, down to Sac, and he came down with Big Nicky and Aaron Ormrod. I'm sure you know both of those guys. And then Graham and a whole bunch of those guys, AO, Nate Schrader, they were all part of like the first team that I think went to challengers for DMG. So I think that's where like the original like competitive level roster came from, was that kind of combination, if that makes sense.
I wonder why they left.
Yeah, I don't remember. I think Nate and Ao, or not Ao. I think Nate and Alex went to Vicious, and I think they got money. I don't know that story.
Hmm.
And then I think maybe it's kind of like once a couple key parts leave, then the kind of the waters. Oh yeah, Uprising. That was when the MPPL folded, so Uprising became a team again to compete. I think for in NXL. So then they worked their way up, and I think that's one reason why they all kind of reformed. Maybe
Gotcha.
I'm not positive, but it'd
So,
be interesting to know. I should know
yeah.
this because it's part of the history.
Well, I mean, yeah, I don't really, I don't dive too much into other teams or anything like that. I just kind of see them
Mhm.
as they come in, and whenever we play them, I try and watch and see any kind of like mannerisms or anything like that or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
But what do you think it is that is keeping DMG from kind of making that next step?
Um, I personally believe it might be a little cocky, but I think we're a top six team. I don't think our record necessarily shows for it. We missed Sunday these last two events by pretty much 1 point either way, plus or minus in margins,
Mm,
would put us into that 10 spot, which is still not, it's not the greatest spot to be in. You're still fighting for a wild card. Um, but the thing that we're missing right now is a quicker realization of shifting gears mid-match, which kind of comes into play of a coach, I would say, just because it's without having necessarily a set coach, we have our own system of coaching and calling plays and calling rosters and everything. But without having like a Dave Baines or Bruno or Rusty Glaze or whoever it is, right?
mm,
Fully leadership calling the shots. I think it just delays us a couple minutes, or not necessarily minutes, but moments of
decisions.
being, yeah, yeah, exactly. Being able to shift gears and be ahead of them and not playing their game and not playing at their hand, but playing our hand instead and controlling the pace of the game, which we are good at and we have glimpses of. But when I go back and analyze my team play and the footage that we get now for playing pro, which is really cool. We can go back and watch how everything unfolded.
Mm,
Um, I can trace it down to one single moment where you can see the momentum switch, or the control switches in the match, but also per point. And then we just don't shift quick enough, and then we run out of time, kind of thing. So a lot of the matches we're losing by a point or two, and that's kind of where I'll go back and see some points that like, oh, we should have won. We were up two bodies there. We threw it away because of this, or ooh, this play we should have ran that instead, but we weren't necessarily ready for that. Or, oh, look, that guy went there for the third time in a row. We should have picked up on that in the pits, kind of thing.
right.
So I think once we find our footing like that, I think we're going to be a wrecking house.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely see that. You guys have the momentum, and the wind is at your back. So,
Hmm.
um, so Dave isn't in your guys' pits every match.
Um, no, actually not. He's when he can be, and he wants to be, but I think it's I don't want to speak for him, but I think it's because he can't be there all the time. He doesn't want to just come in and change
Right.
things up, change the system. Um, but anytime he's there, I tell him all the time, like, man, anytime you're there, like, give me anything you see, any advice you have, like, what do you think we should do? Because obviously one of the greatest coaches and players of all time,
Hmm.
his knowledge of the game is ridiculous. But no, he kind of lets us do our own thing at events. He gives us more insight during practice, and when impact comes out and stuff like that, he'll break it down behind the scenes kind of thing.
Now, how often do you guys practice impact?
We play them once every layout, so every pretty much like layout release. It's either the first weekend or second weekend we'll play them, which is amazing. Like, shout out to Impact and Bart and the whole Yak Mac family and Dave for doing what they do, because we're extremely fortunate to be in the position we are in, and it's not going to last forever, but it's definitely one of the variables that helped us get to where we are so quickly and learn so quickly and get that knowledge up and being able to kind of break down what they're doing and seeing little moves that they do during practice and everything. It's very, very awesome for, Dave to do that for us.
Yeah, and I think what makes what makes a paintball team, because I feel like you guys could go one way or another. You guys could either play impact and take away from that, watching them and figuring out your having impact figure out your mistakes and learning from those, or you could just be completely oblivious of it and not learn from one of the best teams ever.
Exactly.
So it says something from you guys being able to take away from practices like that. I think regardless of how the practices go, because I'm sure there were practices where you guys did really well, and then I'm sure there's practices where they did really well, and there's ones that went back and forth. So, what other team do you guys practice when it's not an impact weekend?
So we're very fortunate to have such a awesome field, Dave's Field, Capitol Edge Paintball Park, because a lot of teams kind of want to come out, and it's a cool area. So right now we have Scottsdale Elevation coming out, pretty much the same system as Elevation. They come out every week before, whether it's usually the opposite weekend of Impact. So they're a big team. Then we play our semi-pro team. However, I actually want to start trying to incorporate other teams into the mix just to get different looks. And my goal is to get maybe, Dynasty, Ironman, Uprising, or Thunder, obviously, because they're all on the West Coast.
Right.
It's a little easier to do that just because DMG's budget can't account to, fly in another team or whatnot. So we have practiced Thunder before a couple times. I think Uprisings came down once or twice. And I think Ironman's come up once or twice, at least since I've been here. Other than that, we just kind of play our camp and pretty much just try to learn ourselves, like you touched on with Impact. Being fully aware of the moment kind of thing, where that's why I'm so hard on my guys is I don't want us to just show up and, just show up. I want us to fully appreciate what we have and use it to our advantage, because no one else is getting this right now. And the opportunities are literally in front of us. So I want everyone to be aware of the time we have, because it's literally it's less than a work day. It's less than 8 hours. Maybe it's 8 hours.
Yeah.
It's not that hard to be that focused and aware of what you're trying to do. So that's one thing we actually did, is we set up some cameras around for practice, so we can go back, and after that day of play, we can go back and watch footage and go, hey, you said you were talking here, but the camera says this, we need to work on that, or why did we do this breakout here, or we should counter this way or whatnot. So, and it's cool to see everyone buy into it.
I mean, you have to. I mean, if you want to win, if you want to be able to compete 100%. On Sunday, you have to take whatever steps necessary it is, to be competitive, and that's what it takes. So you guys never travel anywhere to practice? It's always everybody wants to come out to Capitol Edge.
Yeah, we're a little spoiled like that. That's kind of like the running joke in our chat is, this so and so wants to practice, and it's like, are they gonna come out to us, or do we have to go there? And it's like, I don't know if I want to go there and stuff like that. So right now we're very fortunate for getting people to come out to us, but it's not going to be like that forever. I know that. Yeah. But one of the bigger things of why we try to get teams to us is just because since we have a team in every division, it allows our community to grow a little quicker, because they can see a whole different, not a whole different, but a different style of play. And they can sit there and watch. And sometimes we will even give like the Division 3, Division 2, and our semi-pro team spins against the opponents, as long as they're accepting of it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, do you see is the Sacramento paintball scene growing?
100%. Yeah, it's getting more, I guess, unified a little bit. There's a lot of other really good teams around the area, but I think like NorCal Infamous and Excessive, they're really good programs as well. And we try to work with them on scrimmage days and everything for the lower divisions. But we have seen a lot of players that used to play for them or used to play for old teams back in the day and everything, and start coming out of the woodworks and want to be a part of DMG because they kind of understand where it's going. And that's one reason why we are so strict on the whole don't import players, because we want to have that foundation of, no, like, this is literally a farm team. Wherever you want to go with this in your dream, you can take it, as long as you're willing to put in the work. and make the sacrifices necessary. But it's cool to see the community grow in that way. And as the community grows, the field grows, which is even better.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, definitely being an hour away from each other helps for sure. Because I know Aftershock, I'm like 4 hours away from Chicago. We have a few other players from St. Louis.
Oh, wow.
We have a player from Wisconsin. So it's like it's kind of spread out, and I mean it's just kind of it is what it is at the moment. And I know that a lot of other teams out there have guys who see each other on a regular basis and they practice with each other on a regular basis. And I think that's one thing of Aftershock that's killing us right now is we just can't. I don't want to say dedication because everybody has something going on in their life, but I think it makes it. I think it makes it that much harder when you're multiple hours away from whatever, from the field or from the guys themselves, and it's just makes it tough going to practice. And then even if you just want to get together just to do something, like say you just hey man, the whole team's coming out, we're all going to dinner, we're all going to see a movie. Like it's hard to do that just on a whim with a team like us.
Oh, 100%. That just creates more variables for you guys. Like we have to jump over 2 hurdles, but you guys have to jump over 5. It's a whole different ballpark. It kind of makes that dedication level even greater because if you want to do all those things, you got to sacrifice way more than the teams that are so close together.
Yeah.
And that's one reason why I harp on my guys. Like, look, we have all this in front of us. We got to take advantage of this right now. Like this is just like it's gold right now. Not a lot of teams can. We need to appreciate it more just because, like you're saying, there's a lot of teams that can't necessarily do what we're doing right now.
Yeah,
which it's unfortunate.
I'm glad you can see it. I mean, that's the thing is I'm glad you can see it, and I'm not trying to like have sympathy or anything like that of saying
it's just the truth.
I mean, it is what it is. Yeah, I mean, I love paintball, but I just can't be in Chicago every single practice, every single weekend, and play paintball hell, for me, the nearest paintball field is like 2.5, 3 hours away.
Oof.
For me, and to be able, and to be able to like say, hey honey, take our son, I'm going to play paintball for the weekend. It's getting harder and harder to say, the older I get and the older he gets. I mean, because the more time I want to spend with him, and when you have kids eventually one day, if that ever happens, like you'll understand. A lot of the older guys in the league are starting to have kids, and there's and you'll see a lot of the guys that are sticking around who have kids, I think are working in the league or working in the industry in some way. And I think that's just like I think who was it so B Short's retiring this year. I know Skemp retired at the beginning of the year. It's tough.
I'm sure a couple more are gonna kind of come out of the woodworks in this season too.
Absolutely.
Who knows?
Well, and those guys are still young. I mean, they're still ballers, man.
Yeah.
And something's going on. I mean, I think that's the truth, and where something has to change if they want guys to stick around for as long as we have, at least. So I don't know. We'll see, man. We will see. So what?
I hope so.
So what's on your mind? Where do you see paintball going, or where would you like to see the direction of paintball go?
I mean, I think we touched a little bit on it. I would like to see everyone just be able to commit more time so it gets more competitive. It would be cool to take venues to like city locations, so maybe like a park within the city or something, so it's more exposure. I'm not sure how the logistics. Yeah, because it's cool. Like we're going to a lot of these cool places and everything, and like the cities are all awesome. Like Atlantic City's location's great. Atlantic City in general,
not so great.
Shit. Yeah, exactly. Which is still fine, but like I like the whole Europe thing where they'll pick a really cool city and try to just go as close as they can to the city. Other than that, like I feel like I don't know enough about inside of the industry to kind of have the best knowledge of like the 5-year plan for the NXL. But personally, I would love to be able to do this for the next like 20 years and not have to worry about man, I need to go to school because I need to get a real job. I need to go figure out, I need to create a business or I need to do something so I can start planning for my future
Right.
and, start paying all the bills and insurances and all these kind of different things and, have the freedom to maybe, start a family down the road and all these other things. Um, so, I mean, I don't know the answers to, how to get to that end goal, but I feel like I've seen some of like the little things NXL is doing, and I don't know enough behind the scenes to really judge necessarily, but
Yeah.
I feel like they have the right mind. I just don't know where the money's going to come from, which is probably the biggest issue, I think.
Would would you like to see more like a longer season in the sense of more tournaments?
Oh, yeah, yeah. I would. That would be awesome, actually, is if we could create a system of East-West or something like that, and then break down uh, like kind of like the NFL does, where each grouping of player or of teams is in a certain division, and you play 10 matches a year or 20 matches a year. I think that'd be really cool, but I don't know if they'd have to like have a huge amount of money to build private fields. So then it's like, okay, this is your stadium kind of thing, which then you're talking like, okay, now you can start advertising like arena football where, hey, $10, come watch paintball, have a good night, drink, have a good time. It's kind of a social thing
Right.
instead of like, oh, $300 for a 49ers ticket. It's more of a small little, date night kind of thing, which
Right.
would be really cool. And then I mean, I agree 100% where the same idea of the more points you play in a match, the better team's going to win. So I feel like the
Hmm.
more matches you play in a season, the Super Bowl, the best teams are going to be in the Super Bowl. So it'd be cool to kind of follow the same structure as maybe NFL, just because I don't see paintball playing 100 matches like baseball or basketball, but
Hmm.
maybe like 30 like games and then have a playoff structure to go to kind of like a Super Bowl and only X number of player or X number of teams get to play in the playoffs and everything like that.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that should all, you should have to, uh, what's the word? Qualify for World
Mm-hmm.
Cup,
100%.
and then World Cup is
100%.
just the top, top 10 teams or whatever the fuck it is,
Yeah, yeah.
and now it's like the best of the best, the true best of the best of the season are playing, and I think it might come to that. There might be something like that. I'm hoping.
I definitely think it could, but I think I think like to get there is like a 7-year plan or something. It's something
I
that
hear you.
like I feel like the average player doesn't see it and they're just like, oh, I should be like that tomorrow or
Hmm.
I know like most of the stuff people I don't read too much on the internet, but most of the stuff people like do talk about and complain about, it's like, man, you guys don't really know much about the industry. You don't know much about the behind the scenes version of the bills they got to pay and everything like that. Neither do I, but you're complaining about things that you want to see next month where they're trying to look at like 5 years down the road. Hopefully there.
I think they're always on a 2-year plan. I think paintball
Yeah,
itself, competitive paintball, at the tournament level is like on a 2-year plan. I feel like 2 years
I could
comes
see
around
that.
and everything like shit changes, whether it be the rules or the bunkers or whatever. I guess that's really the only two things.
Mhm.
But but yeah, I mean,
I would
I
like to see no locations. That'd be cool.
yeah.
Like maybe have like the opening and obviously World Cup stays the same for obviously World Cup stays the same pretty much the whole time, but maybe the opening stays the same for like 3 years, but then the middle three always change every year. That'd be really cool.
Yeah. I think what about this? I know World Cup is always in Florida. It's
Hmm.
always right now it's always been at the what was the flight.
Disneyland or
Yeah.
yeah, Fly to Flight.
Yeah. Um I wonder if they would ever think about changing it to a bigger venue where there would be a lot of foot traffic because where it is now I still don't think there's very much foot traffic. I think there's just a lot of fucking
Yeah.
people there because there's a lot of players that come to World Cup to that
Hmm.
specific spot. And I think now it's just kind of become this thing where it's just always going to happen here. They got a
Hmm.
good spot. It's always going to happen. There is some traffic that goes by. I would like to see how many people come in who have no they have no ties to anything, to the sport itself. Like, it's a true just walk in and see exactly what's going on. I would like to know those numbers. But I wonder if they would ever do like a World Cup in a closer venue to, like, let's say the Vegas Strip, or to, you know, in New York, not Central Park, but I mean, like,
some kind of
something like that, to where it's like it's this big huge event, and then this big huge event, you know, attracts thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands of players, where maybe hundreds or even just thousands of eyeballs could see that and see how big it really is without having to log on to Go Sports or whatever. But it's in people's faces, and it's in a big city, to where we get enough people going, oh, wow, this is so cool. And now you have the grandstands slowly filling up, because I feel like, I mean, what it is now, it's always been, the grandstands are, they're nothing what they used to be, you know? And I think if we can grow that without having, you know, the players themselves fill those stands, but slowly have true fans eventually kind of fill those stands, I think would be really, really cool to see.
So I fully agree, because I actually saw this video my buddy posted in the DMG camp, and I shared it. It was like a Now This or something, some kind of like promotion, little, you know, 30-second to 1 minute video about like professional paintball, and it kind of explained the breakdown, and it was a lot of footage from this year. But that video alone had 1 million hits, you know, so it's like people are attracted to like the concept of paintball, but like you said, there's no, that middle connection chain isn't there. But I think the issue they're having with that is paintball right now with the venues we're having are too big. So if they wanted to go inside of a city or relatively close to the city, more specifically, I guess, like in a bigger area, I think they have to shrink the venue, which is then turning away players and money, just because I think they would need maybe 2 fields at maximum, just because if they were trying to go somewhere with a lot of foot traffic, everything's tight spaces.
I think there should be an all-pro league.
I fully agree. I think it should be kind of like how what is it, soccer in the US has like, you know, everyone has the big stadiums, but then there's like giant fields of 10 soccer fields or whatever, and you know, every Saturday or Wednesday there's, you know, 30 soccer teams out just playing, and then, you know, over time you qualify for your league and everything like that. I think that'd be a really cool thing to see, because then it would, like, you know, the first step would get to like the arena football level of viewership, and then it's like gain some more traction, you know, become, you know, volleyball or close to golfish level, and then, you know, down the road become NBA, NFL, whatever it is. But
we can only hope.
Yeah.
Well, man, Thomas, I appreciate you sitting down with me, man. I really do. Thank you for your time. I really enjoyed the conversation. I'm stoked at having new players on and getting to know people and kind of seeing where everybody's head's at, you know, not only on the playing level, but also kind of, you know, talking, being able to openly talk about the industry, not necessarily bashing anything, but just kind of like seeing where people's heads are at, what we think they can do better, what we can do, you know, maybe doesn't really need too much attention or anything, but it's really cool to see, you know, your take on things.
I appreciate that. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure of mine. I've always actually, since you started doing this, I was always like, man, I want to get on there. I want to start having conversations about, you know, like you're saying, all the positives of paintball and everything like that. So I thank you. You know, I appreciate what you're doing, because it kind of just it's that spark, that hands-on thing we were talking about, how it just sparks kids' interest in playing paintball and everything too. So you're doing a lot of good stuff in the sport.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. My ears are ringing, and I had some kind of like instinctual thing to be like, dude, I gotta get him on. I gotta get him on. Where can people find you?
I'm on Instagram at ThomasKim09, and then I'm on Facebook, just Thomas Kim. Pretty much that's all I'm doing right now. I kind of want to start doing some other little visual things. Maybe I don't think I'm gonna do a vlog, but I want to do something like that down the road. But Instagram is pretty much where people will find me. I want to give a shout out to Dave Baines, though, in Capital Edge Paintball Park, and obviously all my sponsors too: Planet Eclipse, GI Sports, Anthrax, and then Mom, I love you. You're best supporter, and my brother. So
awesome. I'm glad they listen to the podcast.
Oh yeah, they'll for sure hear this one.
Absolutely, that's
They'll
awesome,
listen
man.
to this one. Yeah.
Sweet. Well, thank you so much, man, and safe travels. And I'll see you at the next event.
Appreciate it. You too.
Take care, bud.
Later.
Thank you, Thomas Kim. I had a great time, man. It was great to hear your story, and I wish you the best of luck, dude. You guys have a lot going for you. You have a super experienced coach, and you guys practice the best team in the world. Please keep taking advantage of it, and keep getting better, man. Paintball is a challenge, especially, not just physically challenging on the field, but finding a paintball field, finding a good paintball field, practicing on a daily basis, and really putting in the effort. That's what makes it, that's half the battle, is getting to the field and having a field. So keep taking advantage of what you have, and make it worth your while for sure. Thanks again, Thomas. And another big thank you to all of our sponsors, PunishersPB.com. Like I said before, guys, they have that Spire 3 trade-in program going on, to where if you send them pictures of what loader you have now, they will credit you. If you send it to them, they will credit you towards a brand new Spire 3. And if you use the promo code TPOP, you will get free shipping on your entire order. So make sure you check them out, PunishersPB.com. Also brought to you by Charm City Paintball. Head game master Mike Thompson, that's going to be his nickname, Head Game Master. But you can check him out Instagram at Charm City Paintball, same thing over on Facebook. But he has all kinds of custom units. I call them custom units because all of his runs are about 10 or less, so they're not mass run product. This stuff is hand stitched. Mike does everything, and it's all high quality. It's amazing. He has ripstop fabric, he has the old school like canvas fabric, he has all kinds of stuff. Mike does a great job, man. He's a good dude. Check him out, Charm City Paintball. We are also brought to you by Carbon Paintball. Like I said, guys, if you want to use the promo code capital TPOP, you will get 10% off. And if you have any inquiries about team sponsorship, or about anything really, shoot me a message over at Carl at carbonpaintball.com, and let's chat. Let's do it. Let's get it on. And last, we are brought to you by Planet Eclipse. You guys know who they are, and they are the best marker makers in the planet. Marker makers. We've had a relationship for a long time, and the company products are not only amazing, but the people who work there are as well. Great group of people and great group of products, and I can't be happier with saying that I've been with them for a long time, and I've enjoyed every minute of it. And yeah, so thank you very much to Planet Eclipse, and thank you everyone out there listening or watching or whatever you're doing. Greatly appreciate all of you. I have a website, carlmarkowski.com, that is hopefully going to be up soon. I'm kind of sort of doing it myself, so it's taking a little bit, but I promise I have some stuff going up there. I'm kind of cutting some of my social media stuff down so that I can focus on a few little things, and this website is going to be one of them. I think I just don't like being spread too thin so much. Not only do I have a terrible memory and attention span, but no, that's about it. I have terrible attention span and memory, so that's why I'm making this website, so you guys can contact me through there or through my social media. I'll probably be eventually going down to just Instagram. I mean, right now I have the Facebooks and everything, but it's just I'm trying to consolidate everything to be able to talk more one-on-one with you guys and have more of a relationship that way, and hopefully maybe get doing these vlogs. I have a vlog going. I'm gonna do this weekend for practice. On Sunday, we're gonna be at Chicago. Aftershock is going to be at Paintball Plex over in Indiana. So I'm gonna try and vlog that and try and get into that realm. So we'll see how that works. But again, thank you all for listening. I greatly appreciate it. I greatly appreciate it, and the love that is going out to that I hear, that I get messages from. It's amazing. I'm going to keep doing this for as long as I can, for as long as I have my voice and my opinions, and that's great. And I know sometimes I ramble on these things, but just like I'm doing now. But it's passionate for me, man. Paintball itself is something that has really structured my life and kind of structured my character and who I am. And that's why I'm so passionate about it, and I want to see change come of it. I want to see players be able to make a living and have something come out of all of this time and effort. It's not just, it shouldn't be just the ones that get lucky enough to play for those those few top teams that get paid. It should be everybody. I mean, everybody at the top levels is sacrificing so much, and there should be some kind of incentive when you turn pro. You've made another step in a sport where there is very few playing at the top level, and I feel like there should be some kind of incentive of that, and definitely more than just a $12,000 first place prize, or or just saying that you play for a pro team. There should be something else coming from it. I don't know how much or what, or maybe I'm just kind of talking out of my ass, but I feel like the pro players are very deserving of that, and I'm not just talking for myself. I'm talking for the guys like on Sacramento DMG who are putting in the work, or any team out there who have young players or old players who have doing this for a while. I feel like their time, effort, sweat, and tears needs to be compensated in some way. So who knows? We'll see. There's definitely some things in the works, so keep an eye out. And once again, thank you all for listening, and we will hopefully see you here again soon on the Playing On podcast. Peace.